Energy. Energy's fun. That is not a glass of scotch. That is light sweet crude from the Eagle Ford, about 100 miles south of where I live in Texas. One of the fun things about shale energy is because the energy is trapped in tiny little particles within rock formations, it's never had a chance to kind of leak up into a conventional reservoir. That leaking through other rock formations is how it picks up impurities like sulfur or mercury. That never happened with shale. So when it comes out of the ground, it's light, it's sweet, and you can put it directly into your martini glass. When was the last time we cared about a hurricane? 2004, 2005? Shale is all onshore. We don't have the technology to frack with salt water yet, so it's all onshore. So natural gas production in the Gulf of Mexico already been shut down. Oil's plateaued. We don't have to worry about our domestic energy supplies anymore. I miss dictators. Chavez was one of my favorites. You may have heard that he didn't like Americans very much. Venezuelan crude is pretty crappy. It's some of the lowest quality stuff. It's got the consistency of toothpaste, and it's very difficult to refine. But Chavez didn't like the Americans, even though the Americans had all of the refineries in the world that could process his stuff. So he went to the Chinese, which everybody knows is the next superpower, and he said, I want you to buy my crude so I don't have to sell it to the Yankees. And the Chinese were like, your crude is crap. We don't want it. It's also, you may have noticed, in the wrong hemisphere. He's like, I don't care. I'll pay you to take it. Wait. Okay, we're listening. So Chavez promised to cover all of the transport costs for sending it around South America and then across the Pacific the long way. He then further promised to cover the refinery losses because you're only going to get about a third less gasoline on the back end if your refineries are not geared to actually process this goo. So Chavez signed on the bottom line, started sending checks. The Chinese sent a supertanker into Maracaibo, loaded up with this gunk, sailed it north across the Gulf of Mexico to New Orleans, and sold it to the Americans and pocketed the difference. This would merely be an amusing anecdote if not for shale. Because of all the light sweet crude that is hitting the market here, we are now in the process of retrofitting our refineries, instead of running the heavy sour crude that we knew was going to be the global standard, to the stuff that we now have produced locally, which means in 4 or 5 years, Venezuela will be the first ever energy producer with no market. Oops. Third, the Gulf Arabs. They have gone from being the beneficiary of a global system, being at the root of the Bretton Woods system, to be what? The only reason we're using any Saudi crude anymore is that the Saudis make sure that there is always at least one supertanker full of the stuff floating offshore in the Gulf of Mexico for whenever somebody might need crude. And then whenever there's a local gap, they rush in and unload. But that's it. We actually don't need it for economic reasons anymore, and very soon we won't be needing any imported crude. And then finally, the Canadians are a little upset with us, not just because of Keystone, but we are the purchasers of 99% of their oil and natural gas exports, and it is flowing, every little bit of it, through North Dakota in order to get to the rest of the United States. And so it's flowing through one of the densest shale production zones, and they're losing their market. On a good day, the spread between Albertan crude and American crude is $20 a barrel. It's typically closer to $40. Ouch.